Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another lesson in our ongoing French course. In this lesson, we are going to look at the verb connaître. Connaître, connaître. Connaître means to know, and this is a very important lesson. It relates to our previous lesson. There are two verbs in French that translate back to English as to know. So if you were to ask me, how do you say to know in French? I will say it depends. It depends on exactly what you want to say. In some cases we use savoir, and in some cases we use connaître. So in this lesson we are going to look at the forms of the verb connaître. We are going to practice a little bit with connaître. First of all, what are the uses of the verb connaître in French? We use connaître to express the idea that we know people, we know or are familiar with people or a certain person. We use connaître to mean that we know places. In other words, to know we are acquainted with someone or something or a place, to be familiar with a place. Okay, so those are the uses of connaître. Just to remind you, the uses of the other verb to know, savoir. Savoir we use when we want to express the idea of knowing facts or information. To know in the sense of being aware of something, and very importantly, to express the idea that you know how to do something. If you want to express the idea that you know how to do something, you use a conjugated form of savoir plus an infinitive. Okay, so that's just to remind you of the uses of savoir. So let's go back to the verb connaître. First of all, a little bit about the origin of the verb connaître, which means to know or to be acquainted with in French. This comes from the Latin cognoscere, which means to get to know. Related words are, of course, the Spanish conocer, the Italian conoscere, and Portuguese conhecer. English words that are related are recognize, cognizance, cognizant, and incognito. Okay, so that's it for the origin. So let's go to the verb connaître itself. It's an irregular verb, which means, and you know already, that means you just have to memorize the forms. So let's go ahead and take a look at the forms in the present tense. So if I want to say, I know, I'm familiar with, I'm acquainted with, je connais, C-O-N-N-A-I-S, je connais. You know, you're familiar with, tu connais, exact same form, tu connais, C-O-N-N-A-I-S, tu connais. He knows, she knows, one knows, connaît, same pronunciation, but of course different spelling, C-O-N-N-A-I, accent circonflexe, T. Notice the accent circonflexe in this form. Il connaît, elle connaît, on connaît. Nous connaissons, connaissons, nous connaissons, we know. C-O-N-N-A-I-S-S-O-N-S. Connaissons, nous connaissons. Vous, you know, vous connaissez, connaissez. C-O-N-N-A-I-S-S-E-Z. Ils, elles connaissent, they know. Ils connaissent, elles connaissent. C-O-N-N-A-I-S-S-E-N-T, connaissent. So again, we have je connais, tu connais, il connaît, elle connaît, on connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, ils, elles connaissent. Okay, so magnifique. Now you know the forms of connaître in the present tense. Let's apply what you've learned. Let's build some sentences here. So we'll start off with I, which of course is je. I know. Remember, we're practicing with connaître, so it's I know in the sense of I know, I'm familiar with. Je connais. Je connais. I know. I know Pierre. Je connais Pierre. Okay, so let's fix this up here. Capital period. I know Pierre. Je connais Pierre. I know Pierre. Je connais Pierre. Okay, let's try another one. Je. I know. Je connais. I know a restaurant, so I'm familiar with a restaurant. I know a restaurant. Je connais un restaurant. Je connais un restaurant. I know, let's add in interesting. I know an interesting restaurant. Je connais un restaurant intéressant. Je connais un restaurant intéressant. I know an interesting restaurant. And let's polish it up here with our capital and period. So there it is. Je connais un restaurant intéressant. I know an interesting restaurant. Let's try a different subject pronoun. So he, of course, that's il. He knows. Il connaît. Il connaît. He knows my father. Il connaît mon père. Il connaît mon père. He knows my father. And let's polish this up here. So there we go. He knows my father. Il connaît mon père. We. Another subject. Nous. We are familiar with. We know. I could also say we know. We are familiar with. Same idea here with the verb connaître. Nous connaissons. Nous connaissons. What do we know? What are we familiar with? Paris. We are familiar with Paris. We know Paris. Nous connaissons Paris. It's also very likely to express this idea of knowing a city or being very familiar with a city. A native speaker will add in the word bien. You will often hear Nous connaissons bien Paris. We are familiar with Paris. So let's polish it up here. How about you know? You know, using the informal you. Tu. You know. Tu connais. Tu connais. How about we make it a question? Do you know? And of course we're using tu. And we're just going to choose est-ce que. There are different ways of making a question. Est-ce que is just one of them. So I have randomly chosen est-ce que. So the question is, do you know? Est-ce que tu connais? Est-ce que tu connais? Do you know what is the question here? So do you know Pierre? Est-ce que tu connais Pierre? Est-ce que tu connais Pierre? Do you know Pierre? And that is our last example in this lesson. So remember, you just have to memorize these forms. Je connais, tu connais, il, elle, on connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, il, elle connaissent. And of course, notice the accent circonflexe here in the il, elle, on form. And that's it for this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it helpful, I would appreciate it very much if you'd give it a like. To continue learning and go on to another lesson, click on the video that appears here on your screen. See you soon. À bientôt.